Hi, I'm Shauna. I'm back here. I have Jaya is here, and Grace is here. So we're reading some more in the Betty Dog books. This thing always goes crooked when I put it down. That's Betty Dog and Gracie Find Their Power. It's book 2 in the series. I don't want it to look crooked. Okay. And we're on chapter 6. Yeah, 6 and 7. Okay, so chapter 6 is Dog Dreams. Welcome back to Evening News, said the anchorman, who smiled into the camera. Now we have a story that will amaze you. Have you ever wondered what your dog was thinking? Well, tonight we're going to visit a special laboratory where they have a team made up of one scientist, one vet, one brain doctor, and one computer guy. Together they created a computer system that allows the thoughts of dogs to be changed into human speech. For the first time ever, we can get a glimpse into the mind of man's best friend. We'd like to introduce you to Grace. She's a lab mix who was recently rescued by Cy, a computer guy from the suburbs of Philadelphia. We've been invited to bring our TV cameras into the lab and watch this exciting experience. Hello, Grace, said the team leader. Thank you for coming and participating in our project. How are you feeling? Hi, Jim, said Grace. It's an honor to be here, and I feel just fine, thanks. So, Grace, let's begin. Do you know how old you are? I think I've seen 3 summers, so that would make me 3 years old. That's in human time. Some humans say every dog year equals 7 human years, at least for some breeds, so it's like I'm a 21-year-old human. Wow, Grace, I'm impressed you knew that, said Jim. I did the math, she said. It wasn't hard. Her jaw fell into a relaxed pose, and she looked as if she were smiling. Okay then, second question. You've been through a lot for a 3-year-old dog. You were saved by a rescue group, had a litter of puppies, and spent time in foster care. I understand that you were recently adopted by Cy. What would you say is the most important thing that you've learned from your experiences? Asked Jim. Release, answered Grace. She stopped for a moment and scratched her ear with her back leg. Then she sat tall again and smiled. I'm sorry, he asked. I don't understand. What is release? It's a dog command, she answered. It was one of the early commands I was taught by my first family. You know, sit, stay, down, release. Okay, I think we can understand sit, stay, and down. What's so special about release? He asked her. Let me tell you a story that might help you understand it better, she told him. It's no secret that all dogs like to chew, especially when we're young and our teeth are coming in. So I was given toys to chew on. Sometimes the toys would be picked up and put away, like when I had a chew stick and my owner thought I had enough of it. One day he tried to take it out of my mouth, but I didn't want to let go. That's when I learned the command, release. It meant to release my grip so he could take it. It wasn't a big deal. He was always nice and rewarded me after I learned to release. Grace stood up for a second, shook all over, and then sat down. She continued. So one day, I found a huge chocolate bar that someone had dropped behind the couch. I was so happy, Jim. It smelled fantastic, and I couldn't wait to eat it. As I started to go to the corner to enjoy my snack, I heard a voice yell, release. Now, if it had been just a chew stick or, a piece of trash, I would have dropped it immediately, because that's what I was taught to do, she said. Oh, Jim answered. Go on, he said. Then what happened? So I had this chocolate bar in my mouth. I could taste it right through the paper. It was great. I wanted it. I didn't want to release it. My owner came over and was holding the end of it, saying, release, over and over, but I held my grip until I remembered that chocolate made dogs sick, and a chocolate bar the size of what I was holding in my mouth could have made me seriously sick. It can even kill small dogs, she added. That's right, Jim said. I've heard that too. Then what happened? Here's a pic of Grace doing her interview. I released it, she said. I released something I thought I wanted after I realized it would hurt me. Very nice. That was a good lesson. Wait, she said, that's only part of the story. So one day I was tied out in the backyard. Some kids were coming home from school and cut through the yard. They were maybe middle school kids. Hard for me to tell because things got weird fast. Uh-oh, said Jim. What happened? Nothing at first. I'd been laying on the patio, so I just sat up and watched them get closer. I was quiet. I'm not a big barker. Until I saw someone knock over a flower pot that was near the patio and everyone laughed. Then I started barking. Next thing I remember, another kid picked up my water bowl and threw it. I think he was throwing it at someone else, but it bounced and hit me. Were you hurt? Asked Jim. No, she answered, just startled and upset because as they started to run away, they kicked and knocked over some chairs. Then I really started barking and running as far as my rope would let me. They just laughed and ran away. I think they thought they were being goofy and harmless. No big deal, right? I don't know, said Jim. You tell me. Was it? No, and yes. Later, when my owner came home and saw the mess, he thought I did it. I don't know how he thought I knocked those chairs over or why I broke the flower pot, but as he cleaned up the mess, he kept yelling at me. And then I didn't get as much free time in the yard after that. He didn't trust me. I'm sorry, said Jim. Don't be, she told him. It was something bad that turned into something good. To make a long story short, even though my owner never left me outside much after that, I continued to think about it all the time. It was like having a DVR in my brain, and that incident was the only recording I had. I played it all the time in my head. Sometimes it almost felt good to think about how I was treated badly. Everyone was bad and wrong, and I was good and right. But it didn't make me feel good and right. It was like the chocolate bar, Jim. These thoughts weren't good for me. I was miserable all the time. After a while, I knew I had to do something, so I did a release. I released the bad thoughts, and after that, I was free. Oh man, Grace, said Jim, you are the dog. You are amazing. Thanks, Jim, but anyone can do a release. When they're holding on to thoughts or ideas that aren't good for them, like mean thoughts or feeling sorry for yourself thoughts, or any thought that doesn't help you be your best dog, or person, she smiled. Yes, said Jim, but please tell us how. How did you do it? How did you release them? I might like to try it myself. It's super easy. Now remember that all unhappy thoughts are not the same. Some are huge and hurtful. Some are small and seem silly, but even the small ones are very real. You can't relax and be happy in your life when a small hurt is always in your mind. So when I'm letting go of small things, I think of a small balloon. I put that feeling inside the balloon and think, I release you. I release these feelings that aren't good for me. I'm holding the end of the balloon and I let go. The balloon with my small problem floats away. I imagine it floating past the clouds and all the way to heaven. I'm free. Listening to you tell the story makes me feel free, laughed Jim. But what do you do for the big hurtful thoughts? Well, one day I realized that a release can be even more powerful than just getting rid of thoughts or feelings that aren't good for you. It can be combined with forgiveness for the ultimate release. To do an ultimate release, first I think of the person or dog that I'm upset with and acknowledge the fact that they hurt me. Next, I ask myself how I feel. And usually the answer is, I feel angry, I feel hurt. Feelings are important, Jim. Sometimes it's good to give a name to those feelings, explained Grace. BD once told me a story about bullies, she continued. Dog bullies and people bullies. And what I learned was that they were the ones with the problem. Sometimes they're messed up and confused, or sometimes dogs or people hurt us because they don't take the time to go deep inside themselves and think about doing the right thing. They don't think about how it might make someone else feel. It doesn't mean that what they did was okay, but it helps to understand why they were hurtful and that it wasn't our fault. Now this next part is very important. I learned that holding on to my anger and hurt feelings was only hurting me. It's true that the one who hurt me has to learn how to be a better dog or person, but they have to learn that in their own way. They're not going to learn a lesson any faster if I stay angry. So finally, I imagine these hurtful feelings going into a big balloon. Then I think, I release you. I release these feelings that aren't good for me. I'm now taking care of myself. Even though you hurt me, I'm not going to let you keep hurting me. So I forgive and I release. Then I let go. The balloon with my big problems floats away, past to the clouds, and all the way to heaven. I'm free. So what you're saying is that forgiving and releasing are almost the same thing, said Jim. Yes, Grace answered. What if the bad feelings come back, he asked. Then you just release them again. It's okay. Sometimes you might have to release them again and again, but one day you'll realize they're gone forever, she smiled. Gosh, Grace, said Jim, I wish I could go home and talk to my dog like this. Actually, you do. He or she understands a lot about you by your emotions and energy, she told him. Wow, I'd love to hear more about that. Unfortunately, we're out of time now, so we'll end this report with a big thank you to our research team, and a big thank you to Grace, the lab mix from Philadelphia, said Jim. You're very welcome, said Grace. Thank you for having me. Back to you, David, said Jim. And that's it for evening news, the newsman told the camera. Thanks for joining us. See you right back here again tomorrow. Betty Dog woke up, startled. She looked around and it was still nighttime, and she was still in her bed in the living room. Light from a full moon was streaming in through slits in the blinds and made stripes of soft white light on the floor around her. Was I dreaming, she thought? Was Gracie really on TV tonight? No, she wasn't on the news when I watched it after dinner. I dreamt that. That was crazy. That was amazing. Oh, Gracie, I have to think about this. I'll think about it in the morning. Then she curled up and fell back to sleep in her moonlit bed. Little Betty Dog. And chapter 7 is Reboot. Good morning, said Chase to Becca as he poured cereal into a huge mixing bowl and dumped some milk on top. Even though he was a grown-up and the years of his teen growth spurt had been over for a long time, he still ate his morning cereal from a big bowl instead of a cereal bowl. It was good that he was so active running laps with the soccer players and BD, because he still ate like a teenager. He shoved a huge spoonful of cereal into his mouth and then spoke to Becca. Did you see BD disporting? What? She asked him, laughing. I can't understand you with your mouth full of food. He swallowed. I said, did you see BD this morning? Sorry, he smiled as he shoved another spoonful into his mouth. Oh, I let her out in the yard around 5 because she seemed restless and I didn't know if she needed to go out. She's still out there. Her voice was soft and trailed off as if she was lost in a daydream. Are you okay? He asked her. Are you still upset about yesterday and the daycare thing? Yes. No, I don't know, she said. What's that mean? He picked up the bowl and drank the last of the milk from it. It means I'm mostly okay. I mean, it wasn't that awful yesterday. It ended all right. It's just that I keep playing the scene over and over in my head. It's like a DVR in my brain and it's stuck on one recording, the Fuzzy Muzzle Show. She let out a sarcastic laugh. I'm not happy or sad. I feel stuck, she told him. Does that make sense? Absolutely, he answered. Your brain is like a computer. The computer for your body. I know computers. You need to reboot. Interesting, she answered as she poured a mug of coffee. How do I do that? Control, Alt, Delete. You know where those buttons are on your computer keyboard, he asked. Sure, she said. Good, he told her. When you hit those buttons, a message pops up on your screen asking if you want to shut down or log off. There are a lot of programs running on your laptop computer, as well as your brain's computer. Many programs are in the background, and you can't see them, but they're still running. Closing them down and starting up again can reset them. Then things work better. Well, I honestly appreciate the lesson for my laptop, but how do I reboot my brain? She asked him. Why don't we all go to the flea market later this morning, he suggested. You, me, and BD. To be honest, I think it would be good for both of you to get out and do something different and change your thoughts. Even if it's just temporary. BD seems a little out of it too. We could just walk around and look at things. I was going to check out the electronics booths for some old computer discs. Maybe you'll see something you want to look at too. That's a great idea, she said. I love the flea market. There's no way I can be there with all those people and be thinking about yesterday at the same time. That would be a perfect way to reboot. I'm so lucky to be married to a computer guy. Maybe you'll want to have a parade for me? Just kidding. Haha, he stood up. There's a Cheerio stuck to your shirt, she told him as she rolled her eyes. You may be smart, but sloppy. Where? He asked as it fell to the floor. I don't see it. Oh well, BD can find it. The day had begun. And that's it for now. So we'll continue with chapter 8 in the next video. Thank you.